Today we are tackling the restoration of this Art Deco dresser. I snagged this beauty off eBay for a mere 40 quid. Now it is structurally sound, but let's be honest, its finish is looking a little bit knackered. There are chips and scratches all over the veneer and that gorgeous walnut grain just isn't popping like it should be. I am super stoked to be bringing this piece back to life alongside my mate David from Mayfield Restorations. We both share a love for Art Deco furniture, so we figured it'd be a bit of a laugh to restore a piece in sync and see what magic we could whip up.
Hi flipitnation fans, I'm David and I'm from Mayfield Restorations. It's absolutely brilliant to be working with Cole on this Art Deco collaboration. It is just a bit of fun, it's not a competition, and we both just love Art Deco furniture. I love Cole's channel, and especially when that little boy Sonny makes an appearance. He brightens up everybody's day, and Cole's channel just wouldn't be the same without him. Anyway, I hope you enjoy both of these videos. We've both worked really hard on them, and once you've looked at Cole's video and checked out his awesome work, then please head over to mine and see what you think. But nice to meet you, and hopefully see you soon.
Restoring furniture and making these videos can be a bit of a solitary gig sometimes, so it's been really awesome to connect with some other furniture fanatics on YouTube and build some great friendships. David's always been there to offer advice and plenty of banter, so I really appreciate it. Could actually use some advice on how I get this drawer out, but it looks like I'm going to have to leave it there and work with it as it is. This dresser likely rolled off the production line in the 1960s, and from my experience of giving these pieces new homes, they are still pretty popular. But let's kick things off by removing the hardware. The hardware itself is actually quite groovy, but the finish is not really doing it for me, so we will deal with these a little bit later. Let's get rid of the old finish. I find this particular brand of paint stripper really effective, but as you can see, while it has done a good job of shifting the finish, there's still some residue. Now if you don't wash that off pretty quickly, it will basically set and you'll just be moving the finish around. So I highly recommend doing this in small patches, then washing it down with hot soapy water. That way you get rid of it completely and you don't have to go in for a second coat. You can really see here how the grain is popping now that old finish is gone. So it's time to get rid of the rest of the finish on this piece. Next up, I go over the entire thing with 120 grit sandpaper. This gets rid of any leftover finish and gives me a nice smooth surface to work with. Now, I'm not too sure what happened here, but in this one particular spot, whether it was a chemical reaction with the tannins in the wood and the stripper, I'm not really too sure, but there are some dark marks. So I'm going to use some Barkeeper's Friend to try and bleach that out. Initially, I just apply it to where the stain is, but once it's dry, as you can see here, it has worked really well. There is a bit of a line here, like a bleach line, so I'm going to apply it to the whole top piece so the colors blend in nicely.
Daisy! Daisy!
Did you catch it? You say thanks, Sonny.
You can see that's worked pretty well. Most of it's gone, and what hasn't gone can be removed with sandpaper, and what can't be removed with sandpaper will likely just blend in with the stain that I'm about to apply. And this stain is not actually apricot jam. This is a walnut stain that I have diluted 1-to-1 with water. Now the reason I do that is I find that it's much easier to work with, much easier to manage. I can spread it out, not worry about it drying out too quickly and then sort of looking patchy. It goes on nice and evenly and isn't quite as dark as the walnut concentrate, which I will do for the second coat after I've done the veneer repairs. I'm going to keep with the original tones of the wood and stain this bottom part black. After the first coat, it wasn't looking quite as dark as I would like, so I go over it with a second coat, and then it looks a whole lot better. And it is now time to work on the veneer repairs. Rather than trying to fill in these really small chips with fresh veneer, which I think would be quite fiddly, I've decided to use these tinted wax blocks. Once dry, they can be sanded, so it's a fantastic way to effectively fill any minor chips or scratches. Now, I have been asked how sturdy this stuff is. Now, I suppose you need to consider where you're putting it. If it's in a high traffic area, it is wax, so over time it will probably wear away. But where it is on this piece of furniture, it'll last a really long time and it hardens quite firmly. So yes, for minor imperfections, it is a fantastic way to fill them in. After sanding, I did go over the entire thing with another coat of walnut stain. I did it in the evening, so I didn't bother filming it because the lighting would just be atrocious. And the next day, it was time for the coat of hard wax oil. And I use Gilboy's hard wax oil, and I know David from Mayfield Restorations also does. We love this brand, and once I find a brand I love, I tend to stick with it, so I highly recommend this one. If you want 10% off, you can check out the link in the description of this video. I tend to transfer a little bit at a time into another vessel so it doesn't dry out when I'm taking the lid of the tin on and off, hence this coffee jar. You can see straight away how this revitalizes the wood, and it really brings out the detail of the grain. This hardware sadly wasn't solid brass, and I really wasn't sure how to deal with it. I just wasn't happy with how it was looking. I did soak them in some lemon juice and salt to give them a really good clean, hoping that that might be enough. But after looking at them, I still wasn't happy. So it was time to move on to the next thing. This was a bit of an experiment, so try and stick with me through this. Trust the process. So to kick things off with this process, I used some Rust-Oleum antique gold paint. And once that was dry, I moved on to some rub and buff, which is a fantastic product, but I just don't feel like it's enough on its own to give that authentic brass look. And here I am just using a clear sealer. I think this is a Rust-Oleum brand, and this basically just ensures durability so that the paint doesn't wear away. And the final step was to apply a small amount of metal polish, and I basically just gently rub the handle over top of that, and now we can take a look. So here we go. I'm pretty happy with that. Here's what they used to look like. Nice handles, but yeah, the colouring wasn't doing it for me. But yeah, I think these look reasonably authentic. Don't look too shabby at all. If I was keeping this piece, I might actually replace the hardware, but I do know that people like to see the original hardware used. So let me know what you think. What would you have done differently? I tend to let the hard oil dry overnight, and then I come back and give it a light sand. In this case, I'm using 1500 grit sandpaper, which is probably overkill. You could probably get away with 400 grit. This is what I had on hand. But it gives me a nice smooth finish before I add a second coat of hard wax oil. On some of the drawer details here, I'm just going to use some premium beeswax. This one is tinted, so it works really well with the colour of the wood I've got here. I used some fine steel wool to rub it on, and about 20 minutes later I come back and I buff it off with a cloth, and that gives me a nice sort of satin finish. And to finish the interior of the drawers, I use a little bit of beeswax to revitalize them. I really hope you've enjoyed this restoration. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please go over and check out David's video from Mayfield Restorations. His piece is an absolute beauty and definitely worth a watch. If you have liked this video, please do me a massive favor and hit like, maybe drop a comment or subscribe. It's all really helpful, and it means that I can make more of this content for you moving forward. So thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy.